Meta Perspective Podcast.
Hello, and welcome to Meta Perspective Podcast. We're your hosts, Alex.
Evan.
And the girl. This is the show where we talk about deep and interesting topics and try to get to the heart of the idea through multiple perspectives.
If you are joining us for the first time, please give the channel and the video a like and a subscribe, because we do random giveaways and things like that, so it doesn't hurt to stay active.
Speaking of staying active, don't forget to jump in that chat. We want you a part of this conversation as much as us, because obviously Meta Perspective Podcast isn't meta without your perspective. Nailed it.
Yeah. Tonight we're going to be talking about a very hot topic in recent weeks, I'd say.
And not in the mall.
We're going to be talking about Jeffrey Epstein and the Epstein case, Epstein files. We're going to go a little
not
bit...
the client list, because that doesn't exist.
We're going to go a little bit into the background and then open it up for kind of our perspective on some things. Obviously, there's a lot of information out there already. There's tons of stuff on the internet you can find. You can find kind of the history, some of the factual information out there. I'm sure there's a lot of speculation. A lot of accusations thrown around, people involved and things like that. And as far as we know, a lot of that has not been substantiated. So tonight we're going to kind of start out with some of the background facts, and then we're going to give our kind of just our perspectives, our opinions on things, going outside of what is factually proven at this point, and kind of getting to kind of the meaning behind a lot of this stuff. Because this is like probably the biggest. This might be the biggest crime, true crime personality, Epstein, in American history, honestly, at this point. Because, there's been serial killers and stuff like that. We found out everything about them, what drives them, what motivates them, their life and their backstory and all that. But a lot of the stuff around Epstein is kind of shrouded in mystery at this point. How did he become, how did he go from almost nothing to being one of the most affluent and connected billionaires in the world, meeting with all types of people from political figures to actors and entertainers. There's a lot of things in the intelligence community, not just America, but
worldwide. He wasn't just a local celebrity.
Yeah.
He went from a nothing to everything.
Yeah, and there's been a lot of thrown out about, potential involvement with Donald Trump. Bill Clinton is one of those that's kind of comes up again and again when talking about Epstein. Obviously this guy is connected to a lot of important people, and we all just kind of, he flew under the radar as far as the public light for so long, and now that it's all out in the open, and has been for several years, people, rightfully so, still feel like they have not been given the right answers or some type of closure to this very big, I'll call it like sex trafficking, but it's also so much more.
And I know a lot of that is too because of the original reports of this is who this person is, this is what they're guilty of. And with Ghislaine Maxwell, kind of the same thing. It's like, okay, she worked in tandem with this person to doing the same thing. So not only that is a pretty clear record of this person did this stuff, and we have enough evidence to actually get this person for being a part of the exact same thing. And then to give, Ghislaine Maxwell 20 years in prison, less than R. Kelly, for heinous crimes. 20 years, less than R. Kelly is crazy.
Yeah.
But then
20 years is like, if you, I don't know if it's like you got in a drunk driving accident and killed somebody, like maybe not 20 years. But like if you did something pretty heinous, a homicide, you know, it would be 20 years to life, somewhere in that range, and 20 years for, you know, the things that Epstein did and that she was implicated in. That's a very low sentence to where, you know, a lot of criminals have been sentenced for a lot more than 20 years.
So
for killing one person.
Yeah, and just to reiterate, for a frame of reference to go off of that, R. Kelly got 30 years in prison, and it was for federal racketeering and sex trafficking charges. So the sex trafficking charges he got, because obviously they're getting sex trafficking charges.
Yeah.
Ghislaine Maxwell specifically being the one to indoctrinate and brainwash these women into the sex trade. That's what we all heard for the official report originally.
Yeah.
And not much has changed about that other than saying, like, well, she only did it because she was a victim of Jeffrey Epstein. While a lot of reports say that she was partly a ringleader in all of it and facilitating, being the reason it existed. At least with his network. I'm sure there's plenty of others, but with his network, she seemed to be a pretty big player in it.
Yeah.
So somebody who indoctrinated women for actual sex trafficking to other countries, other states, you are a product of goods. 20 years. R. Kelly got 30 years because he took a 16-year-old, and I'm not defending what he did.
Right.
Wasn't wrong.
Just comparison.
What he did was wrong, but he took a 16-year-old girl to another state with the parents' consent, as I've seen. He had the consent of the mother to take her on a trip to, I wish I could remember, whatever state it was.
Yeah.
So basically, it was an inappropriate underage date that he was whining and dining and taking to another place. He didn't sell that person. He ended up taking her back home. Ghislaine Maxwell was selling human beings to other human beings and got 10 years less than him. And I can guarantee you it was more than one 16-year-old girl.
Yeah.
From the sounds of it, it was a lot, maybe a physical ton.
I mean, even when Epstein was originally charged in 2008, there were over 40 witnesses that all corroborated stories and had actual evidence that he committed sexual assault on multiple underage women at the time. And, you know, that was, we'll get into some of that. Actually,
well, I will say a lot of those stories also include Ghislaine Maxwell as being
Right.
a part of the abuser.
Yes.
Not somebody who was like, I delivered you a girl. Oh, no, look what he's doing. She was abusing them as well. She was a part of the experience.
readily involved
in a lot of situations.
all of those.
Yeah.
And actually, La Nina, do you mind if we perhaps mute the back mic there, just so we don't pick up any interference from the... it's very hot, so AC units...
Unmute your mic. So that's muted.
Oh, okay. Sorry, that's my bad.
Sound dampening only does so much in a giant studio like this.
Man. That's all right. We'll use a noise gate in post. Anyway, guys,
Yeah.
so...
What are we even talking about? What sound?
Sorry.
That's for post.
Sorry, La Nina. Lo siento. Okay. So let's get into some backstory of Epstein. I don't want to paint the picture of this because this is something that I had no idea about, his background, and like everyone knows he was a very rich guy, very connected, but not a lot of people know how he got there.
A lot of people know the official reports they heard in the news originally, and a lot of people just know, Epstein didn't kill himself.
Right.
We'll
get to that.
I think
too.
that's the majority of what everybody really knows.
Yeah.
That and Ghislaine Maxwell had some part in indoctrination, and Jeffrey Epstein facilitated and blackmailed. I feel like that's pretty much the heart of
Right.
what everybody really knows.
there's-
That's the extent.
And there's a lot of crimes to unpack here. And that's kind of the thing is that, for the most part, everybody has heard about the sexual allegations, the sex crimes, trafficking, underage women, that kind of thing is a lot more, it's more likely to hit the headlines. And that's something that sticks because that's probably, if you think about all the worst crimes that a person could do, abusing and rape or sexual assault of underage children is probably the top of the list. I can't think of much else that's worse, at least in our criminal justice system. Even people
Really, murder's the only thing I can think that would be considered worse. But even then, you'd have people who would argue, is it?
I mean, even
In some
even
situations, it's like
people, right? Even
that
people
person
in prison,
might welcome death.
even murderers in prison will still beat up the sex offenders because it's that heinous. It's
Yes. Yeah.
especially pedophilia, especially underaged.
Yeah,
crimes.
murder obviously is like a stop of life.
Right.
That is, I no longer give you the option to make options.
Yeah.
While the other one, in my personal opinion, is much darker. The power over somebody and the control, the evil manner that births that crave, I would think, in my opinion, is worse. Only because in most situations of murder, I would assume most situations of murder are passion, which is, the deed is done and the person sits there. I mean, how many calls have you seen online where somebody calls in and they're like, yeah, I just murdered my family.
Right.
Why are you calling in the police? Because a part of you understands what you did was wrong. How many people are like, I just sex traffic people.
Right.
It's pure evil
murder
that people don't feel the need to repent for. I did this and it's part of a job. Versus most of the times, most murders, it's in the passion of the crime. It's not something that it's like, I'm going to do this for fun.
Right.
And I would argue that the sex trade is more in line with the murder thing because a lot of these people, a lot of times, if somebody gets to a certain age, that's what you do. You get rid of them because you can't do anything else with them. You can't let them go. You've reached your age. You're 35 now. We got a 25, however, whatever the age is. A lot of times I've seen stories, not necessarily related to this, but in a lot of stories when it comes to sex trafficking, victims talk about when somebody would reach a certain age, they would just kind of disappear.
Yeah.
They'd go out with somebody and we'd never see them again. So the implication is, well, you're no longer useful and you're not going to survive on your own really without talking about this.
Right.
So we got to get rid of.
And you brought up kind of an important point to all of this is that, in a lot of cases, I'm not saying it's right, but murder can be justified or at least explained in context.
It's out of anger. It's not out of passion, excitement, and forethought. That's
But
very rare.
something
And the
like-
people who do that stuff, they get documentaries about them because it's
Right.
so bizarre that somebody would want to murder.
But sex crimes against anyone, especially a child, that's something that can never be justified. That's something that is pure
Pure evil.
Yeah.
If
So-
that's not, I don't know what is.
So I don't blame the people of America and the people of the world, honestly, for wanting to know more about this. One of the biggest crimes of the century is this guy Jeffrey Epstein. So, in order to understand and fully talk about this, we'll go into the history, a little backstory on him. So I'll start out. Jeffrey Epstein was born in America. He's born in New York, I think Coney Island, probably. And I don't think he came from any type of wealth or anything like that. Like this, it was just a normal guy. He went to college for 2 years. I think it's Cooper Union is the school. He went 2 years of Cooper Union, dropped out of college. And shortly after that, he gets hired at a very prestigious high school in New York. That is the Dalton School. Dalton School.
Sounds like you had connections.
Well, you know, that's kind of, this is where this story starts to unfold. So a guy named Donald Barr was the head of the school at the time. Donald Barr is the father of Bill Barr. And Bill Barr was the attorney general.
Great comedian.
Under...
I'm kidding. I'm sorry.
I know, it's very similar to Bill Burr. So Donald Barr was the father of the man Bill Barr, who at one point was the attorney general under George Bush. And then later, during Trump's first term, was the attorney general again, and actually oversaw the arrest and prosecution of Epstein. So the man who, you know, so Epstein is a college dropout, 2 years of education, doesn't come from any type of wealth or anything like that. So he gets hired at this Dalton school for teaching mathematics. No teaching background, no credentials to back up any of this. But, you know, Donald Barr, for some reason, you know, he has a meeting with him and he decides to hire him. And that's kind of the coincidence of, you know, his son eventually prosecutes him. It's kind of a weird tie, you know, the first in a long list of weird situations. So, so he teaches there for about 2 years, and he gets fired eventually, maybe for bad performance. It's unclear because some of the sources say that he was actually, you know, some of the students say he wasn't a bad math teacher or anything like that. But there are kind of speculation that he might have been, you know, sexually assaulting some of the students there. He had been known to show up at high school parties as kind of like the cool teacher that, you know, would show up to the party and have some drinks or whatever. So, you know, whatever happened, he gets fired from there. So after that, he goes, so he starts working for Bear Stearns, which is an investment bank. They went bankrupt after the financial crisis in 2008. So they're no longer a company, but he starts working there. And at first they kind of put him on like the options trading tables. But he's not very good at that. He doesn't really have a background in investment or finances or anything like that. But he eventually gets moved to the special products unit. And basically what ends up happening is he is kind of put into a role where he works with very wealthy clients and he starts to figure out ways to protect their money, you know, legal ways. You know, investing, like venture capitalism, things like that. There are certain things you can do to kind of protect your money from taxes, you know, prolong the taxes or you know, move money here and there to kind of, you know, essentially hide your money. So he does that for, I think, about 4 years. And the guy's like, you know, when he gets hired there, he's probably like 23 or so, works there for 4 years. And, you know, during that time, he meets a lot of wealthy clients because he's kind of the guy that's moving and hiding their money and kind of, you know, protecting them from paying the taxes and all that. So a lot of probably his, you know, startup.
That would be like the racketeering.
Well, I mean, it wasn't necessarily illegal, all the things that he was doing. But he was exposed to a lot of high value clients, and eventually he gets.
I still question how he understood the stuff.
Well, that's kind of the thing.
Because with that little of schooling, dropping out, getting that lucky, and then being like, by the way, you guys completed school, you guys became rich, but I know a better way for you to use your money than you do. that would be a red flag to me too, that he has that kind of insight that people more successful with more knowledge don't have, and he would have something to offer them. It just blows my mind that he would have anything to offer.
It's very strange. And
being a teacher who's just banging his students.
He's 23 or he's like, he's in his 20s at this point. And, you got to keep in mind that at the time this was like the early 80s or late 70s and the internet wasn't a thing. So hiding your money is a lot easier, but it's a lot harder because, you have to have connections. You have to call people. You have to send wires and all this stuff. It's like, it's an involved process that he started.
But even just knowing something like that, knowing how to hide your money and do that stuff, you would need some type of very, very high up person who has that type of intel. It's not like, oh, my friend's a millionaire and he knows something all the other millionaires don't know. It's like you have to have some kind of connection and pull with like somebody powerful enough, I would assume in government or something, who's like, I can protect you also. Yeah. So I understand the laws of how this stuff works, and I also have the power to curb it. Because somebody of his stature, to get that knowledge from somebody and then try to sell it to other people, like you said, it's not fully illegal. So how you wouldn't come up with that on your own? You would have to be given that by somebody who's clearly above the other people you're selling this to.
Right. I mean, that's kind of the thing. It's like, so, he works there for 4 years, and he does get fired. He does a regulatory violation. He probably flew too close to the sun and, did something he shouldn't have done, something illegal probably.
Whose son?
Go on. But anyway, he gets let go from Bear Stearns about 4 years after he started working there, and from there the story starts to take a turn where he because of all the people that he met at that time, all of the wealthy clients that he probably had, he probably got good at hiding money. But either way, he ends up in the company of someone named Douglas Leese. So Douglas Leese is he's a British citizen. And at this time, this is like the Cold War era. Go on. So Douglas Leese is, he's involved in weapons running. He's like kind of a gun runner, but he's not a manufacturer. He's more of a fixer guy. He's someone that makes these deals go down. He's kind of the guy that makes sure the right people get paid, whether legally or illegally. And he needs someone like an Epstein to be able to hide his money or hide the money of his clients. And it's unclear how he was involved with Douglas Leese initially, but he goes from Bear Stearns, has these wealthy connections. He ends up in the company of Douglas Leese, and he gets involved in something called the Iran-Contra affair. And at the time, there was there was a rebel group trying to overthrow the Nicaraguan government, and somehow Iran was involved in this. And at the time in American politics, this ended up becoming a big deal. It was because that, Congress had basically said, we cannot send any money to Iran. We cannot fund this, this war or whatever's going on in this region. Absolutely no taxpayer money will go to this. But working, the CIA, the intelligence agencies, working through freelance people like Douglas Leese, Epstein involved, Robert Maxwell, which I'll get, Ghislaine Maxwell's father.
Interesting.
I'll get into all that in a second, but these all Adnan Khashoggi was kind of a Middle Eastern kind of, you think now like a Saudi prince or a sheik or whatever, the bunch of money, kind of doing these sketchy weapons deals. So all these people were kind of involved in this Iran-Contra scandal. And at the time, like I was saying, none of the funds from America are going to go to this war. But what ends up happening is, these parties find a way to sell weapons to Israel, and then Israel then sells weapons to Iran at a premium, and then all these people get a cut. So all the people involved, Douglas Lease, Adnan Khashoggi, Robert Maxwell, Jeffrey Epstein, they're all kind of implicated in this not so legal thing, and it ends up being a scandal. So, from an early age, he was connected with all these wealthy clients. He was involved with intelligence, just with the fact that they're doing this under the purview of the government, and they have to hide their trail. And he was kind of the guy that was an expert at hiding money. So, all this kind of fast forward, this is like the roots of Epstein, and he became connected through this, through this early cycle in his life where, he's involved in intelligence agencies, Israel, America, British, or, MI6, probably other Western countries, Middle East, all that. So, it's no surprise now that a lot of his past is kind of shrouded in mystery, and a lot of the reason why maybe the things that he had done, the people he had met, the contacts and all that aren't as, it's unlikely that they'll be disclosed, because before he was a sex trafficker, he was a gun runner in the Cold War. So, I mean, to me, that makes a lot of sense. It's like, if we've already been working with this guy from intelligence, when he starts doing some shady stuff, well, it's not cool that he did the shady stuff, but like, don't look into it, because then you can find war crimes, that kind of thing. So let's see. So we'll fast forward here a bit. So basically, one of the guys, so this goes on for a long amount, a period of time. And, keep in mind, this is the 80s. There's no internet. There's no connection. The CIA was kind of under scrutiny for a little bit. But then, after this Iran-Contra thing, it kind of, they just become a bigger and more powerful entity. They start doing, start running, like, overthrowing governments in other countries, things like that. These are all shady things that, the American public has no idea what's going on. At some point, what's this guy's name? Alexander Acosta. Yeah, he was the U.S. attorney who was prosecuting Epstein when he got caught in 2008. And he's on record saying that, when Epstein got caught initially, because he got caught in 2008, and then he got caught again 2019 or something like that. So at the time, he's Epstein makes a immunity deal with this it was Alexander Acosta, which is a known political figure now. So this guy basically gives Epstein a very lenient. You go in the bathroom?
Real quick.
All right. He gives him a very lenient immunity deal.
30. It won't be long.
Basically,
37.
well, maybe I'll save it until he comes back.
42.
So I'll wait till he comes back. But let's talk about Robert Maxwell for a second, because Robert Maxwell is pivotal to the story, because Robert Maxwell is the father of Ghislaine Maxwell, who was recently given an immunity deal, probably said some stuff, was trying to work out something where she could go through Congress and kind of give up some of her past and the crimes that were committed for an immunity, but the congressional committee rejected that, so she wasn't able to do that. She's working on an appeal that's apparently going to the Supreme Court. We already talked about her getting only 20 years for this and all that. So there's a lot of shady shit around this woman, but she was the daughter of Robert Maxwell, who is essentially a British citizen. He was born in Czechoslovakia. During World War II, he ended up moving to, he left for France, and then ended up in Britain. Ended up fighting for the British in World War II. He earned the highest ranking medal in the British Army, during World War II for storming a machine gun nest. Like, this guy was very ballsy, like, no fear, larger than life kind of man. So Robert Maxwell gets involved in British intelligence. So he gets involved in this kind of whole gun running thing in the Cold War in the Middle East. So Robert Maxwell was already very connected to intelligence agencies, connected to Israel or Israeli intelligence, Mossad, British intelligence. I'm sure, other Western European countries' intelligence. So, this guy was already very well connected. And at some point, he kind of pimps his daughter out to Jeffrey Epstein, which, everything that I've heard about Epstein is basically this is a guy that's morally compromised. All he does is he's good at hiding money. And this is somebody that you should know. So all these wealthy clients that he worked at with Bear Stearns, all these people he met through these intelligence operations, all these guys were involved in the biggest intelligence operations of the Cold War in the 80s at the time. So he's very well connected through both intelligence and the higher up, wealthier class. So, Robert Maxwell basically is like a mentor to Epstein, introduces him to all these people. That's when his daughter gets involved, and that's kind of where, things develop from there. So, all of that aside, it's kind of a rabbit hole of all the things that led to what everyone else has heard about Epstein, which is sexual allegations. So just to kind of wrap up the history here. So in 2008, Jeffrey Epstein is charged with sex crimes. Basically, what happened is they would find girls from kind of lower economic status, and they would lure them to, everyone's heard about like give the massages kind of thing. It's like an introductory role to see if these people would go, these girls would go further. They would pay them $200, which for a billionaire, that's not a whole lot of money. But
for an investment, that's a deal.
But so eventually one of the girls actually, she might have been poor, but she had a family. She told her family about what happened, and they basically looked into it and started pressing charges. And then in 2008, Jeffrey Epstein is charged with these sexual allegations. There's about 40 witnesses that are all corroborating each other's stories and things like that. So this guy is basically...
And this is all in 2008?
Yeah, in 2008 when he gets charged. So all this is pointing to him being guilty. He ends up signing an immunity deal, and that's why I brought up the Acosta. What the fuck is this? Alexander Acosta basically kind of works out this deal with this guy where it's you can have immunity for all of the crimes of your past and all of the crimes of your future, and your associates, all of their crimes and all of their future crimes, based on these conditions. I'm a little fuzzy on all that, but it was a very light bullshit immunity deal. And basically that goes down. In 2008, he avoids prosecution, which probably emboldened him to do more stuff. And then, you fast forward
Well,
10
if
years.
anybody has seen any movie about a compromised person, that is usually the case. It's a lot of times somebody will try to get caught, knowing that they have somebody to get them off, so that once they're kind of like no longer a suspect in something and everything's been acquitted, and it's like, okay, this isn't the case with this person, then that person doubles down on what they're doing, because now if the law goes back after them, they can claim harassment.
Right. And like, once it's like kind of double jeopardy and all that. You can't be charged.
And I only bring that up not because it's in movies, but because realistically, if somebody like him is taking all of these risks while at the same time knows all of these backdoor deals for taxes and write-offs, and he understands what even other millionaires don't understand. He has insider information on how the system works.
Yeah.
So I would assume him getting, him getting put on trial for it in 2008 would, if anything, be a possible, like an intentional, I should say, thing to get caught, just to essentially sideswipe it. So it's like, okay, well, we didn't have a full-on collision with this case, but like a little scrape, and
I mean, that's
and he's
kind of
back doing what he's doing. But like now we have
also-
to either prove it 100%, or if we go after it a second time, now he can sue us, and then he can start to become a protected person by the law.
right. And you can't go, that's double jeopardy. You can't go after someone for the same crime twice. And I think that's kind of what happened, is that, he's so involved with intelligence, and Alexander Acosta actually said that in some kind of testimony. He was like, people were like, why did you give him such a cushy immunity deal? And he said, I was told that Jeffrey Epstein belongs to intelligence. And he's kind of denied that claim, but it's on video, it's on record, it's in the transcripts. So, whatever he meant by that is unclear, but there is some tie to intelligence. And, this kind of leads into, this is the Jeffrey Epstein of the past. And that's why I wanted to lay out, I know it took a long time, but I wanted to lay all that out because, everyone else heard about the sex crimes and all that. And that's kind of what we're getting to here. But, he was deeply involved in all of these sketchy Cold War dealings, moving money and, doing illegal things that even if he was gone after by the government or prosecuted by someone, there's a lot that the government doesn't want to get out. Because if you prosecute this guy and you start to go to discovery and all this stuff, it unveils a whole tree of dark influence that not only Jeffrey Epstein, but all of these other people are implicated in.
Which makes me wonder if that's not the intention. Because it's kind of like recently with Trump, not his entire platform, but a decent little chunk of the platform he ran on this time was the Epstein thing. He was very adamant about, I'm going to release the Epstein stuff, the JFK stuff. All this stuff I'm releasing, but I'm going after Jeffrey Epstein. The implication is he doesn't believe he killed himself. He thinks it's a cover-up. He thinks there's a list, and he's going to release it.
Yeah.
That was what he's running on. Now, again, if he's on that list, it makes no sense that he would advertise to everybody, I want it open. I want to go after it. Now you could say, well, he said he wanted it to, and then he didn't. So that's, that's proof. It's like, well, I don't think so. I think the fact that no other administration touching it is proof that they had something to do with it. I think somebody that brings it up and then comes back and goes from like, I'm going to be the one pioneering this and I'm going to get this released, and then immediately turn around and be like, let's not talk about this. It doesn't matter. Let it go. To me, that speaks those same implications.
Yeah.
That these people, from my opinion, would be that they do put that pressure and go, you don't know what this is. Let us show you. Let us give you an idea. In other words, we're going to tell you the crimes. And this is how it works. This is how these crimes work. And you realize that you're up against the world.
Right.
You're up against like the biggest power structures of the entire world.
I mean,
you're up against the UN. You're up against, I mean, in theory, if you're up against power structures like that, you already know, it's implied that the power structure you're a part of is also compromised. And you're like, okay, you guys are everywhere. This is deterring.
Yeah.
If, you guys, basically, we let you do what we let you do. But this is something we're not going to let you do. We're everywhere.
Right.
Like, the only reason that we haven't shown you we're everywhere, the only reason we haven't told you how scary we are and what's actually going on is because you're not interfering with us. This is interfering. Stay in your lane. Like, if you have that kind of power, I could imagine the intimidation would be that strong. Although him already getting shot, it's like, what do you got to lose?
Well, and I
Already
think
got shot once.
that's part of all of this too. Is because in order to really go into the crimes of Epstein, you implicate multiple countries in war crimes and extortion, and gets into the whole blackmail thing, which
The
I
whole
think,
CIA thing.
And that's
Which
kind of
is would
right. The CIA, yeah, exactly. Yes, and I think there's a whole speculation around was Epstein using this kind of sex trade thing to blackmail people to get him to pay, get them to pay him. Well, we already know that he was doing that when he was moving people's money. He would move money, and he would do this thing where he basically takes, $50 million from you. He moves $4 billion. He takes $50 million or $100 million, and he's like, well, you could come after me, but I could also expose you. So he was already blackmailing and extorting people before any sexual allegations that even hit the table. So
which would make sense that if he was doing that he would push the envelope and be like, how much more power could I get?
Right.
The only thing you could do more besides money would be something that the public would see as evil, which would be children or taking advantage of somebody. Money's one thing. Like, you can have a situation where courts go easy on you with money. But if it's like, hey, we have video of you with a 10-year-old.
Right.
That's not something you can talk your way out.
And that's the other thing too. It's like kind of getting back to the war crimes thing. It's like, to fully go into the history of Epstein might expose war crimes from not only the United States, but Israel, most of the Western countries, definitely Britain. This could have, I say national security implications, but it could be world security implications of what was done at that time, coming to light now with all the technology and all the communication we have. It would freak people the fuck out, I think. I mean, this is all speculation. Based on what I've learned about everything involved, the reason why Epstein has been so protected and you haven't, he killed himself and all these immunity deals and all this shady shit going on is because there's something that they don't want us to know. That it's one thing to rape and sex traffic, 100 girls. And this sounds terrible, but what is worse, that or the deaths of 200,000 civilians in some country over 10, 20 years? It's like you kind of weigh the crimes. It's like, well, one's extremely heinous, but one's like, that's a lot of people dead. So, to implicate one man in something that was, everyone was involved with, the sex trafficking, all that stuff, or to implicate a country that could have real ramifications that could lead to war and sanction. It's like,
but that's the idea.
There's a lot more.
You create a network of crime around you, to where it's like, if I fall, everything falls.
Yeah.
The whole house of cards. Like your comfortable way of living will fall if I go to jail.
Yeah.
I mean, that's chess within that network.
And that's the scary thing now, because, you know, Trump, like you said, Trump ran on, you know, let's expose Epstein, JFK, Martin Luther King, 9/11, all this stuff. But it's like, you know, you have Kash Patel, which I like Kash Patel. I feel like he had a real, you know, he was a real reformist when it came to the intelligence agencies. He was going to, you know, revamp the FBI and, you know, really kind of get away from the shady shit that's going on. And you have Dan Bongino, who is like, you know, he's a conservative podcaster. He was in the Secret Service. But, you know, this guy is like a solid, moral, stand-up dude. And it's like you got both of them now are involved. And they're both like, Epstein killed himself. Which no one believes.
Yeah.
So it's like, what?
It was the same as Trump.
And it's like, I don't think anyone got to them.
It's the same as Trump. As soon as he went after that list and went after that stuff,
he's like, stop talking about it.
All of a sudden, him and Elon immediately fall out. Elon's like, he's on the list, fashioning a black eye.
Yeah.
Like, he was assaulted, starts screaming, Trump's on the list, and then Trump's like, there's no list, there's no anything. And it's like, both of you were working together to get the list out. And now all of a sudden you're yelling he's on it. He's saying it doesn't exist. And it's like, I feel like if he knew he was on the list, he wouldn't have brought up the list.
Yeah.
And I feel like if he was really on the list, Elon wouldn't have freaked out yelling about it, left with a black eye. Like, I mean, it doesn't seem like Trump's the kind of guy to knock him out. But it kind of seems like to me they were both, pressure was put on to say certain things, put on a certain show, and then just back off the idea and lay low.
Yeah.
Because ever since then, I don't hear much from our president at all.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of like ever since that happened, everybody got quiet. And it's like...
Right. And he was like, oh, this is like a liberal hoax and all this stuff. Honestly, I feel like anyone, it's like a freaking curse. Like anyone that touches this Epstein file and sees, there's got to be something in there.
Well, it's the same as the UFO stuff.
There's so much implicated in whatever information is in that, you know, what Epstein was involved in, that anyone that sees it automatically says, nobody can know about this. It doesn't matter if I wanted to expose this. It doesn't matter if, you know, this is what the people want. If people see this, something is going to change for the worse. And we can't let that happen. You know, that's the powerful part about all this. It's like you have multiple people. Like I was just saying, Trump, Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, you know, you have all the shady immunity deals. You have Epstein killing himself. You know, like there's something
right, when the camera cuts off for the one time
deleting the minute of, you know, it's like there's something that if people saw would change the world. And the powers that be believe that would just, you know, it could destroy everything. I mean, if it's like, you know, Israel worked with the United States to, you know, somehow.
Well, I want to say it was Eisenhower or somebody, but I wish I could remember the actual thing. There's a real name, but the theory of it is it was with aliens, and there was like the theory. This is all conspiracy, but the theory is that he was visited by. First, it was the Nordics, the Nordic whites, the tall, white, long hair, blonde, blue-eyed aliens. You can look them up. It's
negative
like,
blood types.
It's been talked. These type of people have been talked about for thousands of years. So, like, they're written about. So then you also have the Greys. So first, the Nordics came and they said, what we're going to do is we are going to create. What we're going to do is we're going to give you all this technology and all this stuff, and in exchange in exchange, what you're going to do is you're going to eliminate all of your nuclear weapons. And then there was apparently another deal with the Greys saying kind of the same thing, but we will give you all this stuff and all this technology that make you the greatest superpower of all time. And along with this technology that we give you, our thing is we want to be able to dissect. We want to be able to do testing on humans. And apparently theory says that's the one he took. So it's kind of like, again, it's a conspiracy. But if you take that, if you just kind of humor me for a moment and think about what would the implications be for Americans being told that aliens do exist, but we made a deal with them in order to get technology. We made a deal where they can do testing on us. So it's kind of the same idea. You know, if you get into aliens, you get into all this, and then you realize that this whole time there's actually a deal that we made that allows them to do this stuff to us, then it's no longer about aliens are dissecting people. It's about, wait, they wouldn't be doing it if we didn't give them permission to do it. So it's kind of the same thing where it's like, how do we tell people aliens exist without telling them that we actually said they can fucking murder you guys?
Yeah.
Like, so that's the idea is, even though that's kind of a theory, a possible theory of what's out there. I forgot the name of the actual agreement, but it's like, there's a thing, you know, it's kind of like, you know, Watergate or any of those. It's like, it sounds like a made up thing, but when you look it up, it's like, well, there's actual documents on some of the stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know how far it goes, but some of the stuff has legitimate documents. So at least referencing that document. And then you're like, I can't find the document, but I find documents referencing the document. But the idea being that it's like, it's one thing, like Americans think, like, just tell us aliens are real so we know.
Yeah.
But what if it comes with information like that
Well,
we already knew, and we're buddies with them? We dap it up all the time, and I was like, you can go abduct whoever. It's like, now the fact that it hasn't been disclosed is the problem. It's not about the aliens. Now the anti-disclosure is what's going to send people away.
Right.
And that'll destroy. So it's the same idea where it's like, you could think this is a guy selling people, but you don't know what's actually involved in that, and if the governments are involved, and then it gets to a point where it's like, wait, if the CIA, that is kind of seems above our government, if I would say they are, since they know, since the president has to try to get stuff from them and doesn't.
Right.
But they never do. But it's like, if it is a network of people that span across the globe who are all trafficking humans, and our government is facilitating it, suddenly being like, yeah, Jeffrey Epstein did do it. By the way, one of your last politicians is the reason your sister disappeared. You're like, oh, this is much more serious than the Epstein thing.
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, that's why it doesn't exist.
Well, I mean, that's
No
kind
rest.
of what I see in this whole thing is that, you know, since post World War II, when the CIA was really emboldened, you know, this was all, you know, directly after the first nuclear weapon was launched, and we saw the power in that. We saw the world-destroying power in that. So, you know, for years, you know, for the past 60-plus years, the CIA, you know, all of our the intelligence of the U.S. government and around the world has basically been, you know, it's like, in a way, it makes sense, because if you're going to prevent global destruction, you would do everything in your power to do that, right? So they had the perfect excuse to, you know, contribute to this runaway train of.
You're trying to make the country better. If you expose this, the country gets worse.
You're trying to save the world. It starts off that way. And then you do all these things that are crimes against humanity, war crimes, manipulation of our own population. You don't want anyone to find out about that. That would bring down the entire system. And then that's how these people think. It's like the world can't know what we've done, and they can't know what we're doing now, so let's just keep doing it in the shadows,
and we'll work
cover
it
up.
all into the system.
We'll make
the
it
very same system that supports everything. So if you take us down, you take the system
and
down.
I think that's why people were so against Trump, is because you have the media, you have everyone in intelligence saying that this guy can't know what we know, because then the house of cards falls down. We're going to do everything that we can. We're going to pretend he's a Russian agent. We're going to try to impeach him at every corner, and the guy is untouchable. I mean, you have recently, everyone saying that Trump is involved with Epstein, and, there's a photo with him. He knew Epstein. Well, everyone in the 1980s who was anyone knew Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah.
It's 6 degrees of separation from Epstein. So it's like, that doesn't necessarily mean anything. Bill Clinton knew him, he was the president. No one gives a fuck about that. So it's like,
there's a bias.
There's a bias there, but it's also, and actually Trump helped get Epstein arrested.
In 2008.
In 2008, yeah, he was. He gave, I don't know if it was like an official deposition or testimony, but he assisted in the investigation before they actually got Epstein. He was like, oh yeah, there's a lot of shady stuff going on, and there's this island, and there's these parties and all that. He helped the FBI or whoever it was at the time that was going after and looking into this to prosecute Epstein. He basically helped direct them in the right way that eventually led to his arrest. So someone who's involved in this is not gonna volunteer that kind of information if they're implicated. And every account that I've seen, and I haven't seen anything directly linking Trump to any kind of nefarious involvement with Epstein's crimes. And people are going to say otherwise, but it's just not there.
Yeah, there's stuff out there, and you can or cannot find stuff. If you can't find stuff, you can't find it.
And I think if Trump is hesitant to go into it, it's because of the other things we talked about. The war crimes.
With as much as Trump is attacked, again, love him or hate him, the point is, out of any president, I would say he is the most scrutinized. So if there was anything that implicated him towards the Epstein stuff, I don't see how it wouldn't have gotten out.
100%.
And that's my main thing, is this is the guy who's like, I want to go after him. And the media's like, oh, he's part of it. But there's no proof.
Well, the Biden administration had all that information for 4 years.
Yeah.
And didn't go. They went after him from every other thing after he was president.
Yeah, if they were
January
going to go
6th,
after him for something, having the documents of Epstein, they would have used it.
Nailed that coffin shut, but there wasn't anything there. And I think that's kind of, it's interesting because, Trump has took a turn on Epstein. He's kind of like trying to move past it. And, maybe there's more important things in the world. Maybe it's old news and he's dead now. So, it doesn't matter as much as real world.
I mean, I do agree with the idea that, he's dead. So it's like anything you get him on is going to be all similar stuff.
Right. It's like who's going to be the one that pays the price if he's already dead?
Exactly. It's like, are we going to put all of our attention into something that, it's like, okay, it kind of like Michael Jackson. It's like, if High life.
Oh.
But it's like, if Michael Jackson, if Michael Jackson did do that stuff, they would have released it.
Right.
They just kept going on and on and on about it without ever having one true witness who came out and said, this is what happened, and it did happen. So it's kind of a similar thing where it's like, you can tell me a million times, but like, this is a very famous person. They were everywhere. Everybody knew them. If this was happening, we would have very clear evidence. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that is a big thing, is the fact that if the last administration wanted him out of the running, they would have divulged that information if it was out there, because Trump is very prolific. He's been around for as long as I can remember, since I was a kid. It's like Trump this, Trump that. He's a billionaire. He's like the richest guy in the world. Like he was, when we were kids, he was the, Elon Musk. He was
like
the
Apprentice and all that.
He was the rich guy. It's like, forget Amazon. Like that's who you thought of was Trump when you thought of rich. So it's just, if he's that bad of a guy, it seems weird to go after it. To even bring it up. If you're part of a crime, you wouldn't bring it out that forward.
Yeah.
If you're part of a crime, the last administration who had the information would have used it against you. If you're part of a crime and there's like nothing about it, it's you got to start to wonder what's really going on here.
Yeah.
And I think it's just like you said. I think it's just he wanted to pioneer the Epstein thing because he knew it would get him points. He's like, if I can blow the top off this, I'm going to be the best president. And then I think it, like you said, they were like, this is what's going on, buddy. And he was like, okay.
This is going to destroy the country.
You want to keep playing ball? This is what's going to happen if you win. If you win, everything falls apart.
Right.
And you want to be the president that puts everything back together, right?
Right. So it's counterintuitive to the message.
Exactly.
And I mean, that's kind of at the point we're at now. It's like what really matters moving forward. And it's like, in a way, all of this kind of, there's a lot there. It's like child sex trafficking, weird, kind of almost satanic stuff, Illuminati, Bohemian Grove, Pizzagate. There's a lot there that's not just Epstein that is interesting to know about, and I think that's what people want to know. People want to know. It's like, what's really going on? Who really runs the world? So I don't blame people for being curious, but at the same time, it's like,
it's like you said, the Bohemian Grove thing. To me, that's one of the best examples. I watched Alex Jones' Bohemian Grove documentary way back in the day, and I was like, this is crazy. Like, just the place itself from the video was crazy. I was like, this is just a weird place. The owl, Moloch, all that stuff, it's weird.
Yeah.
But when you see an actual video of the cremation of care, where they do a mock human sacrifice of a fake human child's body, and they burn it in effigy in front of this thing, and I watched the whole video, like the full video back in the day, the one that he got out, and while they're doing this ceremony, there are countless people all in this crowd just screaming, like bawling, just wailing. And it's like, wow, what a weird fucking group of people.
I'm sure
I've never gone to a movie and be like, oh, like what a weird reaction.
And
unless you have some spiritual ties to this fucking weird event you're doing.
And it's like,
I see people at
however
concerts
old that is,
happy.
like 150 years old or something, however long this is going on.
The Bohemian Groves has been going on for over 200 years. They just had their 200th anniversary within the past 10 years. And what gets me, the reason I say this is the best one, is because everybody was like, if you're a skeptic and you're like, it's bullshit, it's this and that, it's all fake. I see the video. There are some recognizable famous people in this video and some from other countries.
Yeah.
Like there are
who were asked about it later, and
the people who are said
upset.
to be in this, who would be at this place, those are the people we're seeing in the video. What got me was the follow-up video he did to one of Clinton's presidential advisors, and it was
I know you're talking
Clinton,
about.
Bush. It was multiple. He was a presidential advisor.
Yeah.
For I forgot how many terms of different presidents.
He got all pissed off when he
Different presidents, not just like Democrat, not just Republican. This guy was a figurehead, and that should be noted. That somebody like him who doesn't just play one side, what's your purpose?
Right.
You know, if you're in politics and you don't have much to do with either side, what is your purpose? So he was a presidential advisor, and when he walked up and talked to him about the place, he got him with like some basic questions, and the guy was like answering the questions very positively, right? Like good tone of voice, like, oh, well, this and that, and blah, blah, blah. He goes, one final question. In the 1970s or 80s or 90s, I think it was the 1990s or something, whatever it was, you were quoted. And in his documentary, he had the actual photo of the article, the actual physical article.
Yeah.
That you could look up and find in collections. And there was a side thing with his quote, and it said, in the 1990s, you were quoted being, kind of controversial with Bohemian Grove, saying, that you didn't participate in that stuff. Basically, quote, I don't want to run around naked having orgies. And basically saying, like, you were quoted saying they do that there.
Yeah.
That they just run around naked, have orgies. It's just this lawless, immoral, demonic, just everybody fucks each other. We're just all rich, famous. It's like, wow, that's a ditty party. It's like, so when he brought that up, the guy was like, I don't know what article you're talking about. I denied it.
I never said that.
So that right there, you're like, okay, well, the guy said he doesn't remember it. It could be fake. Okay. So same clip, not doctored, not a different day, just like a little further into his conversation, he goes, okay, well, I'm the guy who actually went to Bohemian Groves, and I blew the top wide open. I'm the one who crashed the party. I'm the one who went there. And he goes, well, I don't respect you for that. He goes, if you went there, you made an oath not to talk about it. And because he brought up the cremation of care. All of a sudden, all of us nice. Oh, hi, I'm just like everybody's grandpa. All of a sudden, he changes, and he's just like, you made an oath when you went in there that is very ungentlemanly, and I do not respect you for that.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh, no, I just crashed it. Like, I have nothing to do with that. And he was like, he cursed. I wish I could remember the exact quote.
Yeah.
But he was like, I wish I could remember. But he didn't just lose composure and visibly became angry, but he cursed at him, was angry at him, and was like, I don't respect you. You're blah, 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 and cursed at him. And it's like, wow, you're a public official. You're a presidential advisor, and you lost composure when, Bohemian Groves was brought up.
Yeah.
Something you said,
just to be
oh,
clear,
I never said I did that. I got, what, orgies and stuff? No, I don't even remember that. Okay, well, I crashed the whole thing with the cremation of care and the mock human sacrifice. Well, if you're ungentlemanly, you should have done that. I don't respect you for that. You signed an oath going in there. No, I didn't. I crashed it.
Yeah.
The guy admits that in order to be there, you have to do an oath. That right there is a secret society. Right. No other place, no other party have I gone to. I've never gone to a party where somebody's like, before you come in here, you have to do an oath. A blood oath or whatever. You have to make an oath when you come in here. Oaths, an oath is a serious thing.
Well, just so everybody knows, you're talking about Alex Jones. The original early Alex Jones crashed Bohemian Grove. on camera, and that was the one who was questioning
He
presidential advisor.
He crashed Bohemian Groves on camera.
Right, he had a hidden camera and like in his.
But then it
lapel
was
or something.
later that there's a
Right.
separate interview
confronts the
of
guy.
him confronting one of the presidential advisors who back in the day was quoted saying, I don't go to Bohemian Groves because I don't participate in orgies and blah 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 and running around naked.
Well, as soon as he was like, "Oh, I was the one that crashed," he's like, "That was you." He knew about somebody infiltrating, and
which just shows the whole reason he brought it up to him wasn't because he saw him at Bohemian Groves, but because he had talked about it.
right.
So it's like, oh, you said bad things about this place, and he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. Oh, yeah, well, I'm the guy who crashed the place. I went there, cremation of care, all that stuff. You shouldn't have fucking done that. It's like, I thought you didn't know what I was talking about.
Whoa.
Thought you didn't know what I was talking about.
I mean, and that's the thing, too.
To get that emotional over something that's not corrupt.
Yeah.
And emphasize there's an oath to even to go in. And the fact that you're talking about it goes against the rules of the oath. It's like, bro.
Yeah.
Bro.
I would advise anyone who, Alex Jones skeptic or just Alex Jones fan, anyone who's ever heard of the name Alex Jones and what you think about him, look up Alex Jones Bohemian Grove and look at that whole documentary. It's old at this point, but that's probably the most significant thing Alex Jones has ever done, and I think it kicked off his whole career, honestly.
And a lot of people have infiltrated Bohemian Grove since then. And, it's still fully active, but usually it's like sneaking in. It's not during the events like Alex. That's why Alex Jones's was so big, because he went during their annual once-a-year event, versus other people just go in and break in. And, I've seen some of the videos where people are like, I'm like this many miles in. Like there's nobody around, but there's cameras everywhere. I'm staying every time, I'm sighting a camera, I'm going around, but there is electricity running through this place. There's lights on in buildings. This place is run 24/7. This isn't a place they go to once a year and run once a year. There are people and staff who keep this place functioning all year. There's people who live here at the Grove as workers. And when the more videos you see, you're just like, this is basically like a Diddy party in a whole giant plot of land.
Well, the crazy thing too,
surrounded by giant trees.
So they have like a fake baby sacrifice thing, but it's like it's been going on for 200 years. So did it start as a sacrifice?
When did you stop the real baby?
Right. It's like, did it start as let's just burn a fake baby and make this whole secret society? No, I'm sure that they burned real babies for however many years until they realized that it was going to get out.
And there's no
and then
proof that
it
it's
was symbolic.
And Alex Jones is given benefit of the doubt saying mock human sacrifice. I mean, in the videos, what you see, you got to kind of assume it's probably fake because of the times. But at the same time, like, there's not proof it's fake. You can see little arms and fingers, and you're like, that's part of the fake baby. But, like, the way the arms are done, it's like, this looks like a human body burning. But regardless of that, it's the fact that even if it is like, I watched the whole video. It's like this whole thing, it's a demonic culture that is, like, in speech building up to all of this. Then finally they do the mock human sacrifice. And again, so many people in the audience, you hear wailing. And it's like, you imagine if you went to church and they're singing worship music and you just hear people, oh, praise him, praise Jesus. Oh, you hear just like people just like praising. Well, on the opposite end of that, for a mock human sacrifice, I would expect people to be wailing, screaming, yes! It's the opposite. I mean, it's like everything you see from that video, what I say may not make sense, but when you watch this video and you hear the screaming, you're like, wow, that's a weird reaction to what's happening, unless this is your way of enjoying it.
Yeah.
Which is this. There's no way you can interpret it other than evil. And the people who are making noises through it, it's so dark. It's so dark. It's so
Dark
freaking
stuff.
weird. And the fact that this dude had such a wild reaction to him bringing up the Grove
Yeah.
just shows that it's taken that serious. So when it comes to all the Epstein stuff, we don't really know how far it goes, because the Bohemian Groves itself, with people all over the globe, has been going on for over 200 years, just the celebration of the Grove. So we don't know the politics, the belief systems. We don't know the religion and the politics behind the stuff that led to this 200-year-long tradition. You know, it makes you wonder how much has been set in place before us, before we actually start to uncover it. And is what we're uncovering the very thing that's hurting us? You know, if the entire system is what's hurting us and the entire system is what's a part of this, what do you do?
Yeah. And I know we're coming up on time here. You know, those are really good points, honestly. I think I would add, just as my closing thoughts to wrap up, the Epstein part of this, because I mean, you're totally right. Like there's a lot outside of Epstein that, you know, maybe even the same people that were involved in Epstein and Bohemian Grove, it's all the same crap. And you know, just as a closing thought, from what I found out about Epstein, you know, outside of the sex crimes and all that, I honestly think that from an early, you know, from years and years ago, before all this sexual stuff came to light, Epstein was involved with some shady shit. He was a freelancer, you know, a military contractor of sorts. He hid all these wealthy people's money. He's implicated probably in so much that has built the last 30 years of this country and the world, that to expose it all would crumble the foundation of so many people's lives.
But I think that's
that are
the
in
point.
power. That
if you're evil, you would create an evil structure.
Well,
with
he was just part of it. He was just a good money hider.
With the intention of, if any part of this is exposed, it all crumbles.
Right.
I mean, that would be your fail-safe.
And that's what he knew.
You're going to build something evil, you know, taxes, Federal Reserve, all of that stuff. You're going to build this stuff that's evil to that everybody is supported on. And then you're going to use that as your platform to go off of for evil. Right. It's the opposite of religion. You take God. God gives you a foundation of morals to stand by. Well, these people give you an evil foundation of the physical world. So it's the same thing within the opposite script, which would be, if you try to take me down for my evil, everybody falls. Versus, if I stand on my foundation, everybody comes up with me.
Right.
It's literally a polar opposite, and that's what you see in most of life, in the Bible, and all of these things. And that and honestly, that would be my closing, is just really do research on the Bible, do research on, you know, true good and evil, because what we're facing is not just people with like perversions. What we're facing is darkness. What we're facing is complete immorality. And one of my favorite quotes is, paraphrasing, that good people don't understand what's happening because good people don't understand evil. Only evil people understand evil.
Yeah.
And the more this stuff is going on, good people ignore it because good people don't want to fathom the unfathomable. But that's the platform they stand on. You're afraid of this. And if you look at it, everything falls apart. So let's just not look at this. Let us do what we do, and you'll be able to do what you do. That's the balance.
Yeah.
And I think that's the script they go by. You know, so if you're a president, you're trying to take this down. It's like, this is the balance. You want to take down the balance, the other scale's going to fall.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, what
I mean,
do you do?
That's kind of, just to finish my thought here, it's, I think Epstein's involved in a lot more than we realize. A lot more implications other than the sexual stuff. I think that he was emboldened at a certain point to get away with all that stuff. I think he was already extorting and blackmailing people when he was hiding money for all these war criminals, gun runners, people that are running, insurrections in other countries. He was already deeply involved in this, and I think that that's another reason why we haven't heard that much information, why he might have gotten killed, suicide, all that, why everything's been covered up, is because, the governments around the world don't care about the sex crimes. They don't. They care about the implications of the war crimes. They care about thousands, hundreds of thousands of people dying as a result of their actions over the last 30 to 50 years. So to go into Epstein to expose all of his clients isn't just exposing a deeply satanic and ritualistic sex ring among the elites in our society, implicating everyone involved at the highest level, but it's also implicating multiple governments around the world over the past, like I said, 30 to 50 years. All the death and destruction and the money handling that's been going on and all the darkest shit in the world, Epstein's at the center of it all. And I think that's why we're never going to hear about his list. There was never a list. This is all... the guy's a professional at hiding money. He's not going to write his clients on a list. Like, you'd have to follow the money trail. Like, I'm sure that it would take a lifetime to dive through and really locate who paid him when and when he extorted this person. And,
that's the idea.
All that shit's been deleted. It was deleted after 2008 when he got caught. And the only reason he got caught in 2019 was because there was a judge that reopened his case, because when you make a plea deal and you settle immunity, it's a constitutional, right to notify the victims of the case. You have to tell them what the plea deal was and what the terms are, and you have to notify them. They never did. So the person that came after Epstein, the woman who told her parents and all that in 2008, the federal judge opened that case back up, and that's why they caught him. It was because they opened the case. He didn't get caught again. So every piece of evidence that existed prior to 2008, I'm sure was destroyed.
Oh, yeah.
In that 10-year period. We're never going to get the Epstein list. We're never going to find out any of this information. But as long as you guys know that there's some shady shit going on in the world, and it's not just Epstein. It's all these motherfuckers.
Yes. This is a battle of good and evil. That's really what it comes down to. It's people who do and do not value human life. I mean, it's really two separate categories. And the do value, do good for others. And the do not value, they just spread the hate. That's what it is.
Thanks for joining us tonight. Sorry to end on a positive, a non-positive note, but thank you guys for watching. Definitely leave a comment in the chat, or at least the video comments. We'll respond to you guys, and join us every Wednesday for Meta Perspective Podcast.
Meta Perspective out. Meta Perspective Podcast.